Can you go right in there? Just be careful because they're a little scratchy. Can you hold it with two hands? Not like this, like you're actually like looking at it. Good. All right, you know what? Come over this way a little more because it's going to look better if you're here. So stand on both feet like this. Yeah, and then hold the flower. Oh, I like what you're doing. That's really good. We're comparing two lenses, the RF55mm F2 macro STM and the RF50mm F1.8 STM. Let's get to it. Now, these two lenses aren't super similar in price, but they are somewhat similar in style. My goal is to photograph my kiddos here for you, and I'm going to show you some of the differences between these two lenses, which lens is right for what kind of job, and some of the things I like with one over the other. First, let's talk about the 85mm. This lens comes in right now at just under 500 USD, so it's about a mid-range lens when it comes to an investment level. It's not the lowest, which actually I would qualify the 50mm as one of the lowest, coming in at 169 right now. This lens is considered a macro lens because it goes to a 0.5 magnification, which means that it can photograph given its minimum focusing distance at a half-life size. So it's not like a macro lens that's going to be able to photograph these bugs that are biting me or, you know, a set of wedding rings, but it can get a bit closer, which is another difference between this one and the 50mm. The minimum focusing distance is 1.14 feet, so you can get pretty close, especially for an 85mm focal length. Now, this does go down to f2, which is going to help you get a really shallow depth of field, and it has 9 aperture blades, which is just going to smooth out that bokeh or bokeh for you in the background or foreground as you're shooting. Now, the biggest perk, in my opinion, about this lens, especially over the 50mm, the fact that this one has image stabilization, which means it can get up to 7 stops of image stabilization when paired with a stabilized camera, like the Canon EOS R6 Mark II that I'm going to be photographing with. So having image stabilization in the lens, especially a longer focal length lens, is just going to help me get a more crisp photo and minimize camera shake. Now let's talk a little bit about the lens that's on my camera. This is the RF50mm F1.8 STM. It's a lot less expensive, coming in at $169 at the time of this recording in USD. It's a fast focusing lens just like the 85. It's a 7-blade aperture, so it's not quite as smooth of bokeh as the 85, but being able to go down to 1.8 is going to help create a soft background and foreground as I need it. So I think that's it for the prerequisites. What I wanted to tell you about these lenses, let's go shoot. You're going to take this hand and you're just going to lightly touch it, like right there. Good. Keep that hand down, just that hand lightly touch. Now look at me. It's okay, you got this. You're like killing this. Look at me, honey. When I was photographing my daughter in the flowers, that 85mm just made that foreground and background a little bit more blurry, a little bit more dreamy. My kiddos, I knew I wanted to use that 85mm lens because it would have that illusion of compression, bringing in the background closer to my subjects, and it just has a more larger than life look. We've got beautiful bokeh in the background. Now, using an 85mm absolutely means that you need to have a little bit more space, so that might be a decision factor for you. If you're shooting in circumstances that don't allow you to back up and get the composition that you want out of your image, you might like using that 50mm more. If you're a photographer that's photographing portraits, maybe you're grabbing some groups, you have fast-moving kiddos or subjects or pets, you will probably like the 50mm first in your arsenal before you grab the 85. The 50mm, I mean, it's so light. It's like barely there and barely taking up any space. It's a no-brainer to just throw it in a bag and go. I was using the Canon EOS R6 Mark II, and that has in-body image stabilization. Stay right where you are, because you look great. Good. In the photos where I took of my son with the cowboy hat, I actually wanted to use the 85mm, but I didn't have enough room to back up and get the framing that I wanted. So I switched to the 50mm and got some great shots of him. Good, and I love this hand here. Can you turn it? Yep. And then look at your cowboy hat. And keep the cowboy hat down right there. 1, 2, 3, go. Another big deciding factor is the price point, because that nifty 50, which most photographers just want to throw in their bag, it's meant to be an inexpensive lens, lightweight, fast. It's definitely less expensive than this 85mm. The 85mm is probably second to the 50mm in a logical line of purchase, because it is more expensive and you do need to have more room to use it. But as far as focusing and image quality, they are both absolutely fantastic, especially for the price point that they are. I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at these two lenses with me. Let me know in the comments, which one would you want to grab first? What is your use factor, and what do you think makes these lenses special? I'm Explorer of Light Vanessa Joy here for Canon. Make sure you hit like, subscribe here on their YouTube channel. I'll see you next time.